Sylvanas Windrunner, the time for your judgment is at hand.
Pelagos, what you doing, mate?
Moorwalker, I'm kind of busy judging Sylvanas.
Oh, you are you? Well, that would explain why you're not in Elysian Hold doing the mission table mission that I sent you on then, doesn't it?
Moorwalker, you can't talk to me like that. I'm really quite important now.
I don't want to hear it, okay? All this high and mighty judgment stuff isn't going to cut it when I'm in raid and I've run out of augment runes because someone didn't complete the mission table mission to get more.
Hey, Sylvanas, I heard about the moss. Sorry about that. Hey, while you're down there collecting souls anyway, you mind grabbing 20 for me?
Dude, just get back to the Covenant. That item level gear isn't going to get itself, is it?
Knowledge is power.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Reset. Taliesin and Evitel's wondrous wisdom show, and a very special Weekly Reset, because it is one that is dedicated to specifically looking at the end of Shadowlands and the beginning of the future and the next expansion, which we thought we might as well. Now we know what it is, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Taliesin, Shadowlands isn't over. The race to world first, heroic, for guilds with names a bit like Immortalis is still in full flow, and let's be honest, probably will be for quite a while, you know. Not to mention that cool sounding Season 4 with a new tier of loot, reworked Shadowlands raids all made current and challenging, and 8 new dungeons from BFA, Legion, and Warlords of Draenor added to the Mythic Plus pool. It's all awesome stuff, even though the WoW community are idiots and voted for Iron Docks, proving that they can't be trusted with anything. And that's a good point. But with the final judgment chapter of the Zereth Mortis campaign now done and dusted, along with the release of the new Sylvanas novel, which may or may not tell us a little bit more besides... I'm being coy, I know exactly what it tells us, I've read it. Then the narrative of Shadowlands is completely over, even if the gameplay isn't yet. And therefore, I think this would be a fitting episode to really rate how that ending landed, both with me personally and the community at large. Oh, sorry, I forgot this is the internet, isn't it? What I mean is, does the ending of Shadowlands win, or does it fail? And I know what else you're thinking. You're thinking, but Taliesin, what do you mean? We know what the next expansion is. I thought the announcement was coming on April the 19th. And that's another good point. You are on fire today, Weekly Reset Watcher. The announcement is indeed not for a couple of weeks. But Blizzard went and accidentally revealed a bunch of it anyway by updating data on the official WoW website with collector's edition upgrades that very explicitly include the expansion name, and which, along with some very convincing, apparently leaked promotional materials, we even have some images too. And I know you're watching this video, which means you've been on the internet at least once in your life, which means you've definitely heard this already by now, but I'm putting up a Redbot spoiler anyway, just in case you don't want to know what the new expansion is called, because the new expansion is called Dragonflight. The supposedly leaked promotional materials show some very Blizzardy assets portraying Hawkstrider and a big old dragon with a cool green winged logo. And I know we are in the middle of leak season, I don't blame you for being skeptical, but as far as the validity of these things go, Dragonflight is definitely true. Like 100% cast iron 9 carat bet your house on it guarantee. Dragonflight is the name of the next expansion. This is from the WoW website itself, just like they did when they put the entire 9.1 press kit on there before the Chains of Domination announcement. This is from Blizzard themselves, and honestly, you have to say that the fact that we're talking about it right now is an absolutely gargantuan up. Honestly, my heart goes out to all of the devs working really hard and secretly on the new expansion, looking forward to the big reveal on the 19th, who will be understandably a little bit pissed off with all this, but we can't not talk about it now. It's out there, you know? And the promo image? Not the same level of cast iron 100% guarantee, obviously, but it did surface the same day as the title was discovered. In fact, as far as anyone can tell, a few hours before. And even without that context, it would be an incredibly compelling leaked photo anyway. Like, if this is a fake, then holy shit, whoever you are, please come work for Taliesin and Evitel, because this is so good. Personally, I would rate this as like 90% certain to be as legit as the title on the website, really. The real giveaway for its authenticity, of course, being Hawkstrider in her new, slightly less revealing armor, because I think we all know if this were fan art, there is no way Alexstrasza would have ended up with more clothes, you know? So, dragons confirmed, if not the Dragon Isles itself. It's not going to be a massive shock to anyone, but I don't care who you are. If you care about World of Warcraft at all, then it is always exciting to hear about a new expansion, and you can consider me excited. In fact... And now, of course, it's all about a blissful couple of weeks of guessing what the expansion is all about and what new features will be. With any luck, we've now got a long enough time frame here to come up with so many awesome predictions that the Dragonflight announcement itself can only turn out to be a massive disappointment in comparison. Like, did you know? I heard that Dragonflight is going to have player housing and guild housing and tinkers and dark rangers and class skins and a world revamp and playable Tuskars and... Rathian lost his shirt, so he has no shirt now. That's just how he looks, no shirt, okay? I don't know if it's true, but that's what I heard about Dragonflight, and I'm going to be pretty disappointed if any of that doesn't happen. And there's tons of speculation to be had. Is there significance in the use of the singular Dragonflight as opposed to Dragonflights? Will it be called Dragon Walk until patch 10.2 when we get our Pathfinder achievements? Will the Dragon Isles indeed be a setting? Will Galakron be making an appearance? Is the MMO Champion leak from February entitled Dragonflight a real leak which should be taken seriously now? Like, should we be expecting a minstrel class and a dragon knight class and no new level cap and carpenter and logger professions and a February the 28th announcement date? No, obviously not, because that entire post is madder than a box of frogs wearing InfoWars t-shirts. And, like, well done for predicting the name randomly. That's more than I managed with my fake leak, but no, I don't think we're getting a Chronomancer mini-class, sorry. Or... maybe? Man, who even knows anymore? But that's all part of the fun, right? And you had better believe that we will be partaking in that fun with our own predictions videos coming soon. Just as a personal reaction though, I think Dragonflight is a really cool name. It's much more elegant and direct than most of the names people guessed at, and it makes me think of Flight of Dragons, and Flight of Dragons is literally one of my favourite movies of all time. Probably one of the most formative in terms of stuff that I then grew up liking and caring about. I think the art is awesome, so I hope it's real, and the two things combined kind of made me feel things. It just looks like a World of Warcraft expansion, you know? It's got Azeroth, it's got badass dragons, it's got a pleasingly familiar down-to-earth color palette. It's basically giving me the same warm fuzzies as a nice bowl of hot soup, and that is exactly what I think a lot of us need right now. And that's even without mentioning all the fun we're going to have talking about gear scaling in the new Dragon expansion. Like, I hope the gear from the first Dragon raid scales really well in Dragonflight. The scaling is going to be very important. And of course, this exciting glimpse into the future of the game comes hot on the heels of the finale of the Shadowlands story. The real Shadowlands story, not that guy. And before Dragonflight was accidentally revealed by Blizzard, this episode of the show was all set to be a special edition analysing just that. Because since the Jailer's Death cinematic brought a close to the blandest baddie in WoW, we've had Pelagos becoming the Arbiter, and Sylvanas facing her judgment, and the release of the long-awaited Sylvanas novel by Christie Golden, with all the juicy lore goodness within. And yes, there has also been some very interesting patch 9.2.5 data mining going on too, and in the description of this video, you will find links to Wowhead articles hand-picked and curated by me to cover the most interesting things found in that data, as well as everything we talk about in this video too. But in this video, I really want to just focus on the ending of this story and whether it wins or if it fails. And I know it's old news, but I do want to touch on Pelagos first. Or really, I suppose, first, we really should mention his predecessor, the Arbiter, and the Titan World Soul of Argus, which we now know disabled it. As revealed in the penultimate campaign quest, the implication seems to be that the Dreadlords did indeed twist Argus's soul enough while it was under their care in the Burning Legion that when he died, when we killed him, his soul went to our Shadowlands instead of wherever Titan souls are supposed to go. And the machinery of death not being built to deal with a Titan soul, and presumably its completely alien size and power, it done broke. Which, honestly, I can buy as an explanation. It's been established canon forever that intense exposure to cosmological force can change WoW life forms genetically and change where they go when they die. That's why Eredar and, in fact, Dreadlords go to the Twisting Nether. Those races have become demons despite neither being so originally, and I see no reason why that can't work on Argus too. And I think this is a pretty good place in the story to have that reveal too. I clowned on the idea of Pelagos becoming the Arbiter when it came out in data mining last year, but the interactions we have with him in 9.2 laid the groundwork surprisingly well, and in hindsight, now we're at the end of his arc, it's a pretty good arc, and he kind of embodies one of the main themes of the expansion. The idea that our presence in the afterlife has challenged a long-held status quo for the better. Like, we've helped Bastion to evolve beyond their memory wipe cult and embrace a less blinkered path. We overthrew the founder of Revendreth and democratized the management of the entire zone. In Ardenweald, we helped the Winter Queen through her disconnected aloofness, probably more importantly, put her back in touch with her loon, and Maldraxxus, well, I guess you could say that they're more willing to share the load of defending the Shadowlands with the other covenants than they were before, but okay, I admit they haven't really changed much. And Pelagos is part of that. With a more personal and compassionate soul wearing the sorting hat, the whole ethos of the Shadowlands changes with him, and that's kind of cool. Okay, so yeah, currently all the souls are still flowing towards the more Pelagos, and that may be because it's your first day of work and you're still learning the ropes, or it may be because you're busy on my Kyrian mission table. But either way, do some sorting hat, it's your job. It's important to note that the jailer also wanted to change the broken system in some pretty similar ways, and I quite like the idea that where he failed because his methods were domination and harm, we succeeded because we helped the people we met during our journey. We showed them compassion, and unlike the jailer, we weren't afraid to ask them for help. Also, there's the first ever hug in World of Warcraft. It's really cute. I'm surprisingly sold on Pelagos as the Arbiter. And no, not just because he's my soulbind and buddy, it's because he's actually kind of cool. He does look like he's made of butter, though. All of that's hardly the main event, though, because for most people, the real ending of any Shadowlands narrative is the conclusion of the Sylvanas arc, which was hidden from the PTR and unseen until this past week. And here's the thing about the ending of the Sylvanas arc, right? Like I've said countless times before on this channel, you can't possibly win. Everyone is guaranteed to hate it for one reason or another. This questline was always doomed to be one of the greatest shit shows this game has ever seen! Except actually, no. Actually, it's really good. It's helped immensely by 2 in-game cutscenes which are of a quality we simply haven't seen before in this game, in terms of models, animation, lip syncing, and shoulders. Like, I don't want to reduce some very fine cutscenes to just this, right? But Tyrande, though. Tyrande's shoulders, though. Basically, Tyrande is everyone's new favorite character because everyone wants to be crushed between those shoulders. In the last week, these shoulders have created so much thirst worldwide that Bob Geldof is about to organize a charity concert. It's startling and, frankly, massively inappropriate. These are some very serious cutscenes on a very serious subject, and all you can think of is being stepped on by your new feral tree mummer, you degenerate. You should be ashamed of yourself. The Judgment Quest shows the Banshee Ranger General put in front of Pelagos for judgment, and the I can't believe it's not Arbiter plays an absolute blinder on his first ever judgment, don't forget, by delegating the work to someone else. And I mean, bravo, this boy is definite CEO material. It's symbolic though, obviously, showing how different things are now. The Arbiter is no longer this detached, untouchable, unknowable, all-powerful god, convinced he is the only one that can actually make things better, like some other Arbiter I can think of. Instead, Pelagos puts Sylvanas' judgment into the hands of a representative of the people most wronged by Sylvanas, Tyrande, which you could argue that is basically what the jailer does in the Sanctum of Domination cinematic when he gives Sylvanas her soul fragment back. He leaves her at the mercy of her worst enemies, thinking that they would probably imprison her forever or torture and execute her. And in fairness, it is shown that that is probably exactly what they would have done if Uther hadn't been there with the experience of his journey through the expansion and the compassion that it has instilled in him, which allows him to convince them to set on a different path, the path path that eventually brings about the downfall of the jailer. It's actually quite a nice arc if you think about it. But how is what Pelagos doing any different to that? Well, once again, you could say that although we're doing the same thing as Zaval, kind of, he did it out of cruelty, whereas Pelagos is doing it in service of justice. Intentions do matter. Tyrande, of course, has been on her own journey this expansion, seen some excellent gains, and judges that Sylvanas should walk the moor until she has rescued every soul in there. She sent her owl to watch over Sylvanas, which is a bit harsh, to be honest. Not even because the owl has to be in the moor for all eternity too, so much as because, like, does Tyrande know that there's no flying in the moor? What's the point of sending your owl, Tyrande? It's going to have to just trot about everywhere on its tiny little legs trying to keep up with Sylvanas. Send someone with longer legs, Tyrande. But this ending and the punishment meted out seems to please everyone, really, including Sylvanas, and even, at the time of writing, most of the player base, something that I did not think I would be sitting here saying at the beginning of this patch. It avoids pretty much all of the pitfalls that we were scared of when Sylvanas took her place as the main antagonistic force in the narrative in BFA. She didn't become a Kerrigan, a genuine worry for most of us for a while there. She didn't turn out to be right all along. She didn't sacrifice herself heroically to stop the jailer at the last moment. She didn't get redeemed or forgiven or treated as a hero or like she wasn't responsible for her actions. She didn't avoid justice at the hands of her victims. Actually, she got maybe the harshest punishment possible, because if she has to go around the moor collecting souls, that means basically she has to play Shadowlands forever. We also get a whole ton of stay a while and listen dialogue too, with Alleria and Verisa, Anduin and Gen, Lorthamar, Bane, Bolvar and Talia. And you know me, internet, there is very few things I like more in WoW than going around talking to individual characters after a big event has gone down to hear their reactions to it. It's something I think there should be a lot more of in the game, and yes, more of this please. The most meaningful exchange is probably Anduin revealing that he isn't going to return to Azeroth straight away, troubled and disturbed as he still is from the jailer's domination of him. Anduin's been front and center now in 4 of the last 5 expansions, so I can see why the writers may be keen to weave him out of events for a bit. And leaving Tyrallion in charge of Stormwind for the foreseeable definitely makes you think of that old N'Zoth whisper, doesn't it? The Golden One claims a vacant throne. The crown of light will bring only darkness. I mean, now I think about it, our buttery boy Pelagos is pretty golden and could be said to have claimed a vacant throne, and definitely has a crown of light. Oh, holy shit! I take it all back. We've made a terrible mistake. I just think this is a really great ending. It means that Sylvanas is still around, out of sight and mind, but that she can be put back in the story basically whenever the writers like, or keep her there for as long as they want. In a couple of expansions time, I can absolutely see us needing her help with something and going on a quest to track her down in the moor. And that first meeting with her and seeing how her time in the Shadowlands has changed her is going to be electric. I think most people assume her time there will make her more good and honourable, working through a millennia-long atonement to come out the other side more the character we all wish she was. And that's obviously by far the most likely scenario, but there's also the chance, and I love this one just for the lols honestly, that Sylvanas actually hasn't changed and is actually very cunning and has basically just been put in charge of a place that she knows very well, basically unmonitored, full of really bad, powerful souls that she could, if she wanted, because she's done it before, turn into an army and cause some shit. Look, all I'm saying is that there's a chance that next time we see Sylvanas, far from being a penitent soul on the road to righting her wrongs, she could basically be the new jailer, but better, because frankly, she's better. I don't think that would happen. I don't think it should happen, but if I was in charge of this game, man, I would be so tempted just for the shit show that would ensue. All of this talk of the ending, we haven't even mentioned the Sylvanas novel yet, and honestly, that's because we didn't really need to. We've talked about the book loads on stream, and there will be a still incredibly long edit of the 2-day long conversation on our second channel, Taliesin and Evitel TV, just as soon as I'm done editing this show. But the TLDR is, it's a genuinely cracking read, especially in the first half, in my opinion, which covers Sylvanas' childhood with her family. And when it does cover the events of Wrath, BFA, and the Shadowlands, the extra context and texture that it brings is very fun and very welcome, but not really anything revelatory that tells us much that we didn't get in the game. Like, yeah, Sylvanas follows the jailer because he's all about destroying the cycle of life and death, and Sylvanas' understandable sense of injustice towards, like, most of the things that have ever happened to her make her especially pliable to those ends. We do learn some things. Sylvanas did not order Putris to use the Blight at the Wrathgate. Pleasingly, the team have quietly, completely ignored that particular Alex Afrasiabi interview where he said, out of absolutely nowhere, that she did. And some other things too, like the book explains what Sylvanas and Helya's deal was in BFA, and other little details here and there. And even though I think you understand the story of Shadowlands just as well without reading this book, the novel definitely does enrich the story, and in many ways, I think the game probably would have benefited from some of the scenes and interactions in the novel being represented in the game, as well as probably the novel coming out at the beginning of the expansion rather than the end. You'd have to cut out the last chapter, but it'll be fine. Not because we need those things in the novel to understand the story, but because it helps us feel the story so much more. It's a top drawer WoW novel. I highly recommend you read it, and yeah, join in our huge discussion on it on the T&E TV channel. Oh, right, I suppose I should sum up. Shadowlands, as a game, and especially as a narrative, has had some pretty obvious and much discussed issues. Coming on the back of and tasked with cleaning up some of the looser ends from a BFA arc that either wasn't completely planned out from the start or changed at some point through its journey, and existing in Shadowlands, an expansion which I think many of us suspect had an entire major patch cut. And you know, of all areas of the game, story suffers most from a cut patch, right? And Shadowlands' middle does feel disjointed and weird, and Zovaal is a criminally wasted antagonist, but I think that the team do deserve credit for nailing the ending so thoroughly at the last. You know how you liked Game of Thrones until season 8, and that season was so bad that actually you don't like Game of Thrones anymore? That works the other way around too. I like this ending so much that it genuinely makes me feel a bit better about some of the stuff in the last couple of years. In fact, 9.2 on the whole has been pretty great. I may be pretty much done with Zereth Mortis now, but for 6 weeks or so, I had a blast. The raid is an absolute banger, the Mage Tower is back permanently now, which is a huge dub, and the Season 4 plans are genuinely exciting. Except for Iron Docks, obviously, you idiots. And for WoW, pretty innovative. With a new expansion reveal on the horizon as well, 2022 has genuinely been a good time to be a WoW player. So, the ending of Shadowlands, did it win or did it fail? Well, I'd have to say, it did not fail, no. Thanks for joining us today. If you liked this video, don't thank us, thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to make all of our work happen. I seriously thank you, because without you, there'd be a whole lot less Taliesin and Evitel. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. And remember, my name is Josh, aka Law. Oh no. My name is Taliesin, from me and Evitel and Anirin and Penny too. Until next time, cheerio.